Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's the Tea with Gen X, Y, and Z. We are three generations, three perspectives, one cup of truth. So I want you to get ready for a refreshing take on hot button topics. We're going to be brewing up a steaming hot take on today's most pressing issues, where we'll dish on everything from social justice to pop culture. We'll do this with a little humor, honesty, and maybe even a little healthy debate. So we'll sip the tea, we'll spill the honest truth, and we'll find common ground across the generational gap because this show is informative, it's insightful, and it's guaranteed to what?
Stir the pot.
Stir the pot. So, you guys, I am Dr. Melissa, and I am representing the X Factor.
And what's up, y'all? I'm Amber, holding it down for us millennials.
And I'm Zion, keeping it real for us Zers.
All right, you guys. First of all, you guys, got my Wonder Woman bracelet on today. I realized that when I did this, right? Okay.
Nice.
Now, before we get started, if y'all remember last show, Amber wanted to do a disclaimer about the whole dad hat thing, right? And so here we come back this week, and I've got to do a disclaimer again about me, right? If y'all remember, for those of you that watched the last show, and if you didn't, go watch the last show, because a lot of this show will piggyback on the last show.
Yes.
I kept talking about meeting people at the Winn Dixie, right? And here's the thing, you guys, we talk from our own perspective. In my mind, I'm just making the assumption that everybody knows what Winn Dixie is.
Correct.
Right? And then I started getting emails and feedback, and people were talking about the show and how they enjoyed it. A number of people said, "What is Winn Dixie?"
I was one of those people, y'all. Don't worry.
Same. All of us were.
Yeah, so I heard everything from a restaurant with a drive-through to something. I'm not even going to say what Zion said. I'm not.
Y'all know.
Yeah, I'm not going to do
Spray
it.
bottom.
I'm not going to do it. But you guys, Winn Dixie was, I don't even know if it still exists. It was a grocery store that was in my part of Virginia. And it was the forerunner of Harris Teeter and all of these fancy grocery stores. Winn Dixie was the jam. Like that was the grocery store you want to go to. So when I said the Winn Dixie, I was talking about meeting people right around the meat aisle, maybe in the deli at the Winn Dixie. Too much information. Okay.
All right.
So you guys, what we're going to do today is, last week we talked about the generational perspective of dating, right?
Yep.
And so we had, in the second segment, started talking about dating apps, but we really weren't able to really do justice to that conversation. And so we thought we were going to double back this time, and then let's talk more specifically about dating apps, right? Okay, so here's what I'm going to throw out to my esteemed hosts. I'm going to ask if you all have had any. I shared a little bit last time about a snippet about my personal experience with a dating app. Have you all had any personal experience with dating apps?
Yes, I actually do. So now I'm not opposed to dating apps. And I gave it about a shot for a good 2 days. Don't get me wrong. And I realized after being in a relationship for over 10 years, I was like, I'm not trying to find the love of my life. But again, I gave it a good 2 days. And last week, our exer shadily said that, when you meet somebody in the club, yuck. Now, I'm going to say I was like Usher, and I did meet the love of my life in a club. But, it's not traditional, but it worked for me. So,
but first of all, I don't recall saying yuck. First of all, that's not even my vernacular, but I might have had the yuck face. So to your point though, Amber, you have been in a relationship for 10 years.
Yes.
Which means that you were almost like me from the perspective that once you were again single,
right.
Now we're in this digital age that may not have been the case when you first started dating.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody was like, well, you need to try this dating app. And I was like, but I'm used to meeting people in person, or when I was in school, I said, "Oh, I like him," so that's what I'm gonna try to get with. But hey, I tried it for 2 days, and 2 whole days. I gave it a good shot, a good solid shot. but it just didn't work for me.
Didn't work out for okay.
Mm.
What about you, Zion?
Well, I just want to say, Amber, I could talk about them stereotypical Xers all day long.
I know.
But for the sake of today's episode, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my experience that dates all the way back to the Winn Dixie. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Winn Dixie.
Winn Dixie. I'm just kidding. Back in high school, I was using a dating app, and that's actually where I met my long-term partner. And we've been dating for about 4 years now.
Oh,
So yeah, so dating apps definitely has its benefits. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't work for everybody, especially in our era, which we'll get to later. We shall. Okay.
So it sounds like for us, we had different experiences, but still not that varied, right? So for both the two of us, you met your long-term person via an app, and I met my husband via an app. Mm-hmm. You didn't. However, for you and I, the commonality is that we both found ourselves in a situation where we were trying to re-enter the dating world in a digital time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Where you weren't meeting like at school or something like that.
It was definitely different hopping into the dating world after 10 years in a long-term relationship. I was like, ooh, this is different. I don't think I could do this.
Yeah. Well, imagine with me, like I shared with you guys last time, as an Xer and from my era, like we're sitting there waiting for somebody to approach us.
Yeah, waiting to be
like,
courted. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, it's like, like, is he gonna come? Is he gonna say anything? Yeah. And so it's different. It's different.
It is.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and I want us to delve into dating apps specifically, right? Because there are a ton of them, and we told you guys last time. There are a lot of them out there, and you do your own independent homework. Yes. And I said to you, we're not going to do it for you, but I lied. Of course, we're going to do it for you. Of course, we're going to add some information and our perspective on it. I mean, if not, what's the tea? If we're not giving you the tea, what are we doing, right?
Exactly.
So for dating apps, if I'm going to start dating apps that are kind of specific and popular in my generation.
Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm. And remember, as Xers, that was something that we had to grow into. But I think we're realizing it as Xers that that's the way to meet people now. I mean, just like we've had to embrace Facebook and Instagram and all the things and text messages and all of that. And we can't do the 3-way or the 2-way anymore. I think we have learned that we needed to embrace dating apps.
Correct.
For us, for Xers, I would say Match.com is one that I hear from people in my generation. Okay. I also hear eHarmony, right? This one is really bad. Our Time, which is really wheelchair. More of a, hey, did she say wheelchair? Stop.
Our time, your time.
Well, here's the thing I'm going to say. The dating apps that I know about from my generation and the ones that most of the people that I know that are in my age range that we use, we're looking for compatibility, right? Mm-hmm. Remember my C word last time was clarity. I think now it's compatibility. Right. So we're looking for people that we match up on interest. Right. We match up on sometimes worldview. How do we feel about certain things? It can be political. It can be socioeconomic, whatever. At this age, we're kind of like, I don't really have time for us to be trying to figure out stuff if we are going to line up. Right. Like, no, either we do or we don't. And at this age, people are not apt to change. So trying to get with somebody like in my 20s where it's like, oh, I'm going to change you. No, at 50, not so much. Right. And so those are the apps that we use. What about you?
So for millennials, we were using Tinder. We were using Hinge, and this one is hilarious. And we were, it might not be like too hilarious, but then we were using Christian Mingle.
Christian Mingle.
Yes, and just to throw out a little bit of statistics because Generation Z is not the only bookworms. Us millennials, we do some research and gather statistical data. So what I have researched is individuals that are aged from 30 to 49, which is mostly millennials, make up 61% of dating app users. And also over 40 million Americans are using dating apps. So that is a vast amount of individuals using dating apps.
You are not alone.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That is. Oh wow. That is good. 40 million.
Yes. 40 million Americans are using dating apps currently.
Yep. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. What say you, Z?
Well, unfortunately, y'all, I feel like I'm going to be a poor representation for our generation, unfortunately, in today's episode, because I did not conduct any research in regards to actually retrieving statistics. However, I do have personal experience. So I would say the apps we utilized was obviously Bumble, which is actually the best dating app as far right now. That's the only research I got for y'all. And then there's so many though. It's hard to keep count, but Highly is also a good one. So as you were saying, compatibility. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the perception has changed. We're now evolving, or again devolving, depending how you look at it. Where we're straying away from traditional dating, and now modern dating apps are now taking notice and are actually preying upon this new change, this new perception of dating.
Correct.
So now dating apps are now catered to super. I can't speak today, y'all.
That's all right.
It's that tea.
What's in his cup now?
Yeah. It's now catered to superficial interests and maybe even sexual desires instead of actually connection or actual personal characteristics.
Yeah.
So now the whole dating scheme has changed now. So it's there's a huge disparity between your generation versus mine.
Oh, wow. Okay, but I have to keep it real. So I started out with this whole conversation about dating apps, right? And the Xers, and we're so noble. And we're Match.com and eHarmony, and we're looking for compatibility because we want and crave long-term, meaningful relationships. I didn't mention that Xers also utilize some of those same type of dating apps. If I said POF, most of my Xers out there like, And if you don't know, I won't do you like the Winn Dixie. I'll go ahead and explain.
Yes, let us know.
Plenty of Fish. Yeah, Plenty of Fish. That's one of the apps that people in my generation use. Okay. And Plenty of Fish is has not been widely known as an app to develop deep, meaningful connections on a very, non-superficial, level. Right. Typically, Plenty of Fish is like what the name says. There are plenty of fish. Right. And so for those that are in the X generation, because hey, we're like any other generation. We got people that want meaningful relationships, and then we got people that are just living to be single, and and that's good. No judgment. Yeah. So Plenty of Fish is kind of like a hookup kind of app.
Right, exactly.
Like Tinder is for millennials.
Exactly.
So,
right.
And if
I could just add on a little bit, especially to your point, I know you were saying there's a burnout between millennials and Zers with utilizing dating apps. However, I think that typically refers to the individuals who are actually looking for long-term partners. Like I said earlier, these dating app caters to people's desires, their own personal desires. Right. And to provide an example for that, there are certain apps, dating apps that I won't be naming, where they ask you for your preferences, not just if you enjoy going hiking or rock climbing, but your physical interests, body type, clothing. So these modern dating apps definitely prey upon these people's own, superficial desires. And just if you look at the whole foundation of dating apps nowadays, you're looking at profiles.
Right.
You're looking at profiles. What are you looking? You're not looking to see if that person goes to book clubs after work on Monday night. You're seeing how they look and their appearance. So now we kind of alter the scheme of dating to now, because dating apps just can't replicate that personal social interaction. You're more inclined to look at them for their appearance rather than exactly what's inside, because you don't have that interaction until y'all both match together.
Yeah. So good. So this is going to be a good place for us to stop and pick it back up. We're going to take a quick commercial break. But you guys, one of the things that, listening to both of you, when we talk about people's perception of dating app and how the burnout, a lot of it has to do with what your agenda is, what you're looking for,
Exactly.
and the apps that you might be engaged in.
Exactly.
So it's real easy to get burned out when you're looking for long-term, but the app that you're on is not geared toward long-term.
Right.
But come back, because we're going to talk more about that. Definitely. And we're also going to give a few little tips too, because, hey, we're here for not just entertainment, but education. That's why we call ourselves edutainers. Yep. All right. So we'll be back. Rock with us.
Catch the wave of success with Standing on Business with Dr. Melissa. Unlock your purpose, align it with your entrepreneurial spirit, and witness your business thrive. This isn't just about authenticity. It's about building a foundation so solid, your business becomes synonymous with profitability. Tune in as we delve into marketing strategies that work and create an empire that stands on business. Because when purpose meets strategy, success is inevitable. Standing on Business with Dr. Melissa, where authenticity meets profitability.
Okay, so welcome back to What's the Tea with Gen X, Y, and Z. As promised, before the break, we had started touching on the whole concept of agendas, right? And I'm using the word agenda for lack of a better word, that sometimes when we have people, and to Zion's point, and Amber's as well, when they talked about people being burned out, a lot of it has to do with being disappointed, going on a dating app and realizing that what you were expecting didn't happen. You met a person that didn't have the same agenda. Yeah. And so from my perspective, I will say this. I led off with talking about Match and eHarmony, particularly eHarmony. There are some dating apps that it is specifically geared for people that are serious. I mean, you go to eHarmony because you are looking for a long-term, possibly married relationship. Correct. And so eHarmony will ask you all these questions. I mean, it's really scientific. Yes. Now, here's where the trouble comes in. The problem comes in when somebody comes on eHarmony and joins that app, and you know good and well, you're not looking for a long-term relationship. Yeah. Like, you probably need to be on Plenty of Fish. But there you are on eHarmony with a whole lot of game. That is where the disconnect comes, because this is just personal. Y'all, if you want to hook up, go to the apps for the hookup. I mean, I'm just saying, some people on they on eHarmony, somebody trying to really find their soulmate. Yes. And you up on there, skinning and grinning and, slying and lying. Just stop. So anyway,
come on, all that Riz.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Oh, Riz. Okay.
Yeah. Or like, when I was talking about some of the dating apps for millennials, or when they came out in our millennial generation, like Christian Mingle, for instance. Now, we all know with the name Christian Mingle, it is geared towards individuals of the same faith base, i.e. Christians. So if you know that you are getting up there and you have no intentions on meeting your spouse with the same faith base as you, and you're going up there with hopes of finding an individual because they might be gullible, or it might be an easy take for you, don't go to Christian Mingle. If you're just looking for an easy ticket, like Dr. M said, go to Tinder. It's trending #1 for the best hookup site. So that's what's for you. Don't go to Christian Mingle.
Only here can you get that. We just got the #1 hookup. There you go. Run.
Site. Yeah. Tinder. Use Tinder.
Shout out Tinder.
Oh, man.
Okay. Uh-huh. All right. Just to add on to your part, Dr. M, and start off a little bit of shade, of course. Y'all know the saying where age comes wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You're the epitome of that saying. I think that relic over there is giving you some additional power.
Or you couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't help myself. Take that as you will. But just to add on her point, yes, it's very important to make sure your intentions are clear. If you are just for general dating, Tinder or Bumble will be the perfect site for you. Not that there's anything wrong with that. However, if you have a specific interest in mind where you're interested in long-term dating, narrow it down to certain dating apps that encourages that view. But also, I know we've been talking about the mischievous, deceptive people. Let's go ahead and talk about my Samaritans. If you know you want to be in a long-term relationship, that's what you're looking for, then narrow down your search. Don't be hopping on certain sites like Tinder or Bumble where people are just trying to meet and connect with people, okay? So make sure y'all hold yourself accountable and like you said, do your due diligence, do your research.
Ooh, that's good. Because then that's the thing of, and now you mad. Like you went on Plenty of Fish talking about I was trying to find my husband. Yeah. And you already knew on Plenty of Fish that
especially too with these modern day naps, and I'm gonna go ahead and keep it brief. A lot of these modern day naps are now transactional. What I mean by that is it's impossible to use without purchasing their subscription. Okay. Or for y'all to even match, for you to even view sometimes who's liked your profile, you have to pay that subscription. Okay, so maybe look at those signs, do your research, and have the proper discernment to really evaluate if that's the app for you and if that aligns with your interests. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, but
it's giving money.
Doesn't he sound like a relic? Ooh, wise old man. Okay, so y'all, we're gonna end this episode talking about what I think is really important, and that is what kind of things should you consider. And I'm thinking about cautionary safety. Definitely. Right.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I was doing some research, y'all. I turned into a bookworm this episode. So, when I was doing some research, now don't get me wrong, some of these apps are doing, some safety things as if they're doing like background checks. There are also some that have like disclaimers, like you have to be or err on the side of caution of like what you're looking for.
So you're talking about like you have to kind of check a box and say this is what I'm...
Yeah, you got to definitely check a box, and you have to know what you're doing. They're basically saying like, you're up here, and like if this is what you're looking for, then by all means this is what you're going to get. So they are doing some safety things up there. So just knowing what you're doing when you're on these apps.
Okay. So some disclaimers, as you said, some actually do background checks.
Do background checks. Yeah, definitely.
So I'll go ahead and say, y'all, there's just a disadvantage at times for using digital dating apps. Like I said earlier, you don't have that in real life experience. So sometimes dating apps, a lot of times they're very beneficial because they're very convenient. Right. However, it can involve a lot of deception as well. Fake profiles, fake pictures, misinformation, and a lot of times that can risk your safety, especially if you have plans to meet up with this individual. So again, do your research, do your due diligence, communicate actively, and maybe do a little bit of stalking just to see that person is in fact real and not maybe 30 years older and gray hair and
so you're talking about the whole thing of catfishing.
You
talking about
catfishing. Ooh. If y'all ain't pick up what I was saying now, yes, catfishing, it is a real thing and it's very prevalent, especially among dating apps. So we have to do our due diligence and make sure that we're being safe.
Oh, I just, as an extra, I'm just saying catfish for me. Catfish was that thing that you put in the cornmeal and you battered and you put the obey seasoning and you fried it up and my God, catfish. And now to learn that it's a whole new thing.
It is.
But it's very real. And to Zion's point, cyber stalking. Yeah, to Amber's point, due diligence. So here's my perspective when it comes down to things to consider. And when you're talking about safety and cautionary, we have to trust our gut. Yeah. We have to make sure that we understand the personal responsibility that each of us have to make sure that we are covering all of our bases. Yeah. Listen, we live in a world where unfortunately you could do everything right. You could cyber stalk, you could do due diligence and still meet that wrong person.
Absolutely.
And that's the sad thing about this whole topic. Yeah. However, what I would say to you is not that different than meeting people in person, you guys. Right. Yeah. I mean, we're talking digitally, but I would say when you met somebody at the Winn Dixie that you didn't know, that was a risk.
Yep. Danger everywhere.
If you meet somebody at the club and you decide to leave with them, there's a risk. Yes. So just like everything else, there are some risks with dating apps. Yeah. What I will say is that you have the ability of not having proximity while you explore, look at the profile and all that. Bottom line, trust here. When something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. Okay. And the other thing that I would say is if you're going to meet somebody, if you're using a dating app and you're going to meet somebody, put in those extra safety precautions. Back in my day, we would have like the girlfriend, okay, I'm leaving and I'm going to let you know when I left, and text me in 10 minutes and I'll let you know it's all good, or call me and say that there's an emergency and my cat's sick and I need to leave like immediately. And like we had those things. We let people know where we are. Hey, I just met such and such. I met Mike and he's a cool dude. We're going to meet at the Starbucks at such and such time. The Starbucks at this address, right? Yeah. Do all of those things, you guys, just to be safe. Right. Listen, we want to meet people. Right. We want to find our happiness, whatever that is, whether it's long-term or just connection or whatever. But you guys, we want to be safe while doing it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Right.
And it's okay to have your locations with your friends, because these days, I don't know if it's like that for you guys, but my friend group, we have everybody's location. So it's always good to have your location shared with individuals when you know you're going to foreign places with someone that you're meeting on these dating sites. So everybody that loves you are aware where you are.
Right. And just a key takeaway, the biggest thing, if you didn't hear anything else, here it is. The biggest intention is to make sure your intentions align with whatever app you're using, okay?
Correct.
That is the biggest part. Don't go on a general app if you don't want to see promiscuity or monogamy, okay? Maybe narrow down your search. And you could take advantage of digital dating because it's very beneficial now.
I love it. Okay, you guys. Woo! This was good. This was good, y'all. So I want to thank you so much for joining us on this journey of exploring dating differences, dating apps across the generations. Yep. I want you to remember that every conversation that you have is an opportunity to learn, grow, and to connect with one another. Yep. So you guys, let's keep this conversation brewing. You guys, email us, send us your comments, send us your feedback. Because remember, we got to ask questions. We got to listen to understand. And we need to acknowledge the unique generational challenges across the board. And you guys, we need to always look for common ground, because trust me, it's there.
Absolutely.
Well, until next time, keep sipping and keep talking.
I'm sipping.
Tune in next week for another thought-provoking and entertaining conversation that bridges the generational gap. Hey, one cup at a time.
One generation at a time.
Amen. Take care.